Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, the suspect in the murder of conservative activist Charlie Kirk behind bars.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
This man, identified as 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, held without bail in a Utah jail on charges including aggravated murder. Investigators piecing together his actions on that fateful day, plus the role his family played in his arrest and what we're learning about who Robinson is. The deadly ICE confrontation in a Chicago suburb during a traffic stop. The driver aiming his car at officers, hitting one who was then dragged and fired his weapon. The driver later pronounced dead. This as President Trump's Operation Midway Blitz is underway in Chicago, in which he drastically ramped up ICE operations. Meanwhile, the president saying he'll send the National Guard to Memphis next. The mayor of Memphis saying he did not request it. NASA finds what it's calling the clearest sign of life so far on Mars. Minerals that appear to point to ancient life on the red planet. Is this proof of life out there? And what can we learn about our planet in the process? One of the biggest music events of the summer, Bad Bunny's residency in Puerto Rico entering its final weekend. We'll look at how he's changed the face of reggaeton and what it's meant for his hometown. And the morning show is back. Marianne Cotillard joins the new season and joins us to talk about what fans can expect.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Ramos in for Linsey Davis. Thank you so much for streaming with us. We begin this Friday night with the arrest of the suspected shooter in the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University, roughly 33 hours after the fatal shot was fired. And we have just heard from Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, making remarks for the first time since the death of her husband. She was, of course, emotional, but defiant, and mentioned the campus tours will go on and that the movement he started will continue. Take a listen.
They killed Charlie because he preached a message of patriotism, faith, and of God's merciful love. But they should all know this. If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry. To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't. I refuse to let that happen.
That message came hours after Utah Governor Spencer Cox identified the alleged shooter as 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, who was taken into custody after the governor says he confessed to his father. The investigation picked up speed after the FBI released crisp new images of the suspect. His father recognized his son dressed in those dark clothes and wearing sunglasses. The governor says the father tried to convince his son to turn himself in. Late yesterday, authorities released dramatic video they say shows the suspect making his escape moments after the shooting. There it is, jumping from a rooftop to the ground, then running away. The governor said Robinson wrote anti-fascist messages on bullet casings, including one saying, "Hey, fascist, catch." The governor also begged Americans to dial down the rage and division and urged young Americans to be the change they want to see. Our team is standing by. Pierre Thomas, Jonathan Carl. But first, ABC's chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, leads us off in Utah. Matt?
And Stephanie, after a 33-hour manhunt, officials now tell us it's over. They have their man, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, who is being held here at the Utah County Jail on suspicion of aggravated murder, as they continue to piece together exactly how he got here to this college campus and how he allegedly murdered Charlie Kirk. Tonight, the man authorities say assassinated conservative activist Charlie Kirk with a single shot in front of a crowd of thousands, now behind bars. They say 22-year-old Tyler Robinson turned himself in at the urging of his own father, who recognized him from the widely circulated photos and videos.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got him.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox saying Robinson had confessed to a family member.
A family member of Tyler Robinson reached out to a family friend who contacted the Washington County Sheriff's Office with information that Robinson had confessed to them or implied that he had committed the incident.
The governor saying a family member said Robinson had recently become more political and had brought up Kirk's visit during a family dinner.
Robinson mentioned Charlie Kirk was coming to UVU. They talked about why they didn't like him and the viewpoints that he had. The family member also stated Kirk was full of hate and spreading hate.
And after painstakingly piecing together video, investigators say they've reconstructed Robinson's path to the scene of the crime. They say he arrived on campus in his Dodge Challenger at 8:29 a.m. and at some point changed into the distinctive outfit seen in those photos. Black cap, sunglasses, and that black shirt emblazoned with an eagle and an American flag. TMZ obtaining this video of a man who matches that description, and he appears to be limping. And police say before the shooting, Robinson appears to walk with a stiff right leg, and that his ability to bend his right leg appears to be restricted. Law enforcement sources now tell us investigators believe Robinson was hiding his long gun under his clothing, which explains why he was walking that way. Police say more than 3 hours later at 11:50 a.m., cameras caught Robinson making his way up the building stairwell into the roof, where he crouched down and waited, watching Kirk rev up the crowd. And at 12:22, they say Robinson started to run, not limping anymore, laying down in a sniper position about 175 yards away from the stage. And just 1 minute later, as Kirk was answering a question about gun violence, police say the suspect fired.
Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years?
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Great.
And as the crowd ducked in panic, cameras capturing this image of a shadowy figure on the roof. And police say this video shows Robinson scampering across the roof and dropping down to the ground and then jogging off. Did it seem like he had a firearm when he came down?
Yeah, I believe he did. The video is very grainy. It's from a distance. But yes, we absolutely believe he had the firearm when he jumped off that building.
And authorities say that suspect crossed the street from campus, just over there, walked up this drive into this wooded area. And somewhere around here, he stashed that rifle, wrapped in a dark towel, those cartridges still inside. The governor today saying there were messages inscribed on the bullet casings.
I will leave that up to you to interpret what those engravings mean. I think the clearest one that says "catch fascist," there's not. And by the way, that's like catch like a ball, catch this. I think that speaks for itself.
Authorities also alleging Robinson shared details about the shooting in messages to his roommate.
The messages also refer to engraving bullets and a mention of a scope and the rifle being unique. Messages from the contact, Tyler, also mentioned that he had changed outfits.
And tonight, police are telling me they don't consider that roommate a suspect, but the investigation is ongoing.
Chief National Correspondent Matt Gutman joins us now again. And Matt, what are the next steps now that the suspect is in custody?
So Tyler Robinson, Stephanie, is now at the Utah County Jail. He will be there at least until Tuesday because that's when we are told formal state charges will be filed. There might be additional charges from the state afterwards. But the DOJ, the federal government, might also file charges, murder charges as well. Either way, we expect him to face the death penalty if he's convicted, Stephanie.
Matt Gutman for us tonight with the very latest reporting. Matt, thank you. Tonight, authorities are digging into Tyler Robinson's background, his social media posts, his experience with guns, and what the messages found on bullet cases could mean. Here's our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas.
Tonight, a portrait emerging of Tyler Robinson, the 22-year-old Utah man who authorities say assassinated Charlie Kirk. Social media tells part of his story. His family included hunters, people very familiar and comfortable with guns. He comes from a middle-class Mormon family. Robin's mother is a social worker. His father recently ran a kitchen countertop business. Though he did not have military experience, sources tell ABC News They believe Robinson was proficient with firearms and had enough skill to make a long-distance shot from an elevated perch. And today, the governor alleged that the suspect wanted to literally use bullets to send messages. Here's what the governor said was on the shell casings recovered from that single bolt action rifle believed to have been used in the attack.
Inscriptions on the 3 unfired casings read, "Hey fascist!" "Catch!"
Another shell casing referencing an Italian anti-fascist folk song. The engravings appear to point to a man consumed by internet culture. Robinson also used the encrypted messaging app Discord to communicate, a popular messaging tool used by young people that has been repeatedly tied to young men engaged in horrific acts of violence. Discord releasing a statement today acknowledging Robinson did have an account with their platform, since deleted, but say they found no evidence the suspect planned this incident or promoted violence on their platform. Christian Schwierman was the custodian at Robinson's grade school and has known the Robinson family for over 16 years, describing the suspect as smart.
He's part of our neighborhood, you know. I saw him grow up, yet I would have never thought that.
Keaton Brixby has known Robinson since middle school.
I knew his family had firearms. I knew he shot all the time. There was pictures all over his family's Facebook of him with firearms. Everyone in St. George has them. It's a very conservative town.
And Pierre Thomas joins us now. Pierre, we've learned so much about the suspect in the last 24 hours. What more are you learning about him?
Well, he's described as an extremely bright but reserved young man. Tonight, the FBI still working to establish motive. Police today pointing to some potential clues. A family member allegedly told police that he had recently become more concerned about politics, saying that he did not like Charlie Kirk. Stephanie?
All right, Pierre, thank you so much. There was a key moment during today's news conference with Utah Governor Spencer Cox where he addressed the country, the Republican governor, speaking about political violence, social media, and where this country is headed. Here's ABC's Chief Washington correspondent Jonathan Karl.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox said today the killing of Charlie Kirk made him as angry as he has ever been.
It is an attack on all of us. It is an attack on the American experiment. It is an attack on our ideals.
But despite the anger, Governor Cox, a Republican, is pleading for calm, for dialing down the rage and the division, pointing out that political violence has targeted Democrats as well as Republicans, saying the shooting in his state can be a turning point for America.
We can return violence with violence. We can return hate with hate. And that's the problem with political violence, is it metastasizes, because we can always point the finger at the other side. And at some point, we have to find an off-ramp, or it's going to get much, much worse.
The governor's words stood in stark contrast to those, including the president, who have blamed the attack on the, quote, radical left.
I think we need more moral clarity right now. I hear all the time that words are violence. Words are not violence. Violence is violence. And there is one person responsible for what happened here, and that person is now in custody.
And Cox took aim at all those hateful messages circulating on social media.
Social media is a cancer on our society right now, and I would encourage people to log off, turn off, touch grass, hug a family member, go out and do good in your community.
Governor Cox called the killing of Charlie Kirk a watershed moment, marking a new chapter in American history. The question is whether it is the end of a dark chapter or the beginning of an even darker one. Stephanie?
Jonathan Karl for us there at the White House. Thank you. For more analysis, we want to bring in former FBI agent Richard Frankel. Thank you so much, Richard, for being here. Now, video that was obtained by TMZ from moments before the shooting, you see in that video, I'm sure you're familiar with it, where you see the suspect, Tyler Robinson, walking with that limp. And we heard in the pieces earlier where investigators suggested that it could be because he was concealing his weapon in his clothing. If that is the case, do you think security or anyone really could have noticed him as he walked away? I would think that something like that type of a walk would stand out to someone.
Yeah, it is something that's a little odd. If you are expecting something you're going to look for that. The problem was, I don't think in this instance they were really expecting anything to happen. I kind of compare that to what happened in New York City when they attacked, the shooter attacked the NFL and killed the police officer. And when he walked in with the gun and no one saw the gun, even though it was out. This one, it was hidden. So it's very hard to see that. The thing that they can use, though, in the future is possibly AI technology, with videos and all that. There is some technology that might have actually identified that.
Wow, really? And we know that we've heard from law enforcement, they've said it's difficult to secure outdoor venues like the one at Utah Valley University. We understand about 3,000 people were in attendance. So what more can they do to make sure that these spaces are safe? This is not the first time that we've seen a shooting or an assassination attempt at an outdoor venue. Yeah, so there are several things you can do. One is they can actually require tickets and check tickets, identify people, and have them go through magnetometers. That may not have solved this issue because, again, he did not go through the area of the magnetometer. Right. That being said, they can also put people out on observation areas. And I think they're going to do that now for outside events. I think you're going to see at all sporting events, all political events, you're going to see a lot more observers, maybe even sniper observers, depending on who is at the event. In other words, is the president there or political figures there? Or is it more of a sports event where you're not expecting it, but you should still have that type of security in place? Plus, I think you're going to start seeing a lot more tech, a lot more video cameras up on the roofs and people actually manning them as opposed to just having them on, a screen in front of you. And then you add on that AI technology where the cameras can actually identify hostile actions and or weapons. I'm sure that would make people feel a lot more comfortable attending an event that's outdoors like this, similar to that at the university. But since the assassination, we have heard a lot from politicians and Democrats, and a lot of them are reporting death threats. We've noticed that some schools, colleges, and universities are receiving hoaxes as well, and malicious hoaxes. How can law enforcement respond to these threats if they're happening so often? I mean, they clearly have to treat each one as if it's real, as if it's an active situation. But how can they manage, a real situation from a hoax? Well, right now, everything has got to be considered an act or a potential act. In the FBI, we used to say, it ain't terrorism until it ain't terrorism. In other words, we're going to treat it as a terrorist act until we know it's not. Police officers, departments are going to have to go out on these as if they're real events and determine what they are as quick as possible. And then if it is something, you move forward. If it's not something, you come back and actually you try to identify who's, hoaxing, who's swatting you. But it's gotten so bad that every state in the country is having hoaxing issues right now, having swatting issues. Right, and they have to treat each one seriously. You just never know. Yeah, you don't want to be that one where you said, oh, it's not anything, and then it becomes something, and you could have stopped it if you had an active police response. Right, Richard, thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate your insights. Thank you so much. Thank you. A disturbing scene unfolded on the streets of Chicago. A deadly shooting there involving an ICE officer during a traffic stop. Authorities say a driver was shot and killed after allegedly hitting an officer and dragging him behind the car. ABC's Alex Perez has more.
Tonight, the deadly ICE confrontation in a Chicago suburb. ICE officers attempting to arrest Silverio Villegas Gonzalez this morning in Franklin Park. According to DHS officials, Villegas Gonzalez resisted arrest during a traffic stop. They say he then drove his car at law enforcement officers. One of the ICE officers was hit by the car and dragged a significant distance. Fearing for his own life, the officer fired his weapon. The gunfire heard on nearby surveillance video. Villegas Gonzalez is shot and later pronounced dead at the hospital.
I think it's a tragedy that a life was lost.
DHS says Villegas Gonzalez was undocumented and had a history of reckless driving. All this comes as the Trump administration ramps up ICE enforcement operations nationwide, launching Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago this week. President Trump also threatening to send in the National Guard to combat crime.
Chicago, everybody knows how bad it is. They should be saying, please come in.
But today, President Trump announcing he will now send the National Guard to Memphis instead.
Maybe I'll be the first to say it right now again. We're going to Memphis. Memphis is
that's the next city.
Deeply troubled, and the mayor is happy.
But late today, Memphis's mayor saying he did not request the National Guard.
I want to be clear, I did not ask for the National Guard, and I don't think it's the way to drive down crime. However, that decision has been made.
Our thanks to Alex Perez. There have been multiple hoaxes and swatting incidents playing out across the country in the last 24 hours. We just touched on that a bit with former FBI agent Richard Frankel just a few moments ago. Police responding to fake threats on several college campuses. But tonight, a horrible turn when a false threat led to a real shooting at the U.S. Naval Academy in Maryland. Here's Aaron Katursky.
With the country already on edge, fear and frustration as an epidemic of hoax security threats overwhelms American college campuses. And tonight, proof of how dangerous these can be. A fake threat leading to a real shooting at the U.S. Naval Academy.
I'm requesting units for an EMS task force on the U.S. Naval Academy for an active shooter event.
That turned out to be bogus on Thursday, but the academy was locked down over fears the purported shooter was posing as police. In the chaos, a midshipman shot on the shoulder after confronting a security officer he thought was a gunman. It came at the end of a day that saw more than a dozen hoaxes, many of them police say racially motivated, targeting historically black colleges and universities, along with other schools, including UMass Boston.
Cops came up the staircase and they kicked the door down. They had all tactical gear on and rifles, and they were like, you got to get out. There might be an active shooter.
Heavily armed officers swarming the campus and seen sweeping dormitories, room by room, guns drawn. One student exiting with her hands up. Authorities later determining there was no threat.
And Aaron joins us now. Aaron, what's the condition of the midshipman who was shot?
That midshipman is now out of the hospital tonight, Stephanie, recovering at home. That's the good news. The less good news is that law enforcement officials are really struggling to contain this swatting crisis plaguing the country, and recognizing the climate in America right now does not help. Steph?
It certainly doesn't. Such a frightening situation. Aaron, thank you. Now to those Russian drones entering Poland's airspace. Tonight, President Trump suggesting the drones over Poland could have been a mistake by Russia. But Poland saying today there was no mistake. What NATO is now doing to send a message to Vladimir Putin. Here's Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz.
Overnight, President Trump suggesting Russia's drone incursion into Poland could have been a mistake, but Poland insists it was deliberate. And tonight, NATO ramping up air defenses from the Mediterranean to the Baltics. This comes just days after more than a dozen Russian attack drones violated Poland's airspace. NATO scrambling fighter jets to shoot them down.
What happened on Wednesday was not an isolated incident. Russia's recklessness in the air along our eastern flank is increasing in frequency.
France, the UK, and Germany, among several nations now sending additional assets to better defend NATO's eastern flank.
Our thanks to Martha Raddatz. Coming up here on ABC News Live Prime, the killing of Charlie Kirk has been widely circulated online. So how can adults explain it to children and protect them from graphically violent content? And we've long been told the truth is out there, right? Did scientists just find it? The discovery NASA made on Mars. And bendito sea Benito, blessed be Bad Bunny, who wraps up his iconic residency in Puerto Rico. Just how well did it do? Well, we'll take a look by the numbers. Welcome back. Videos of Charlie Kirk's death exist online to be consumed by anyone of any age, any time. The most graphic circulating on social media. But how should we talk to children about such scenes of violence, or even keep them from seeing it at all? Here with us now is pediatrician and ABC News medical contributor Dr. Alok Patel. Good to see you, doctor. Thanks for being with us this evening. You know, I know with my kids at home, they won't see that stuff, right? No phones, no devices. We can keep a close eye on them there within the household. But how do we keep our youngest children from even coming close to this content when they're at school, if their friends have phones or they're just out somewhere else at a
friend's house. How can we keep this from them?
Stephanie, it almost feels like an uphill battle. Parents such as yourself are doing the right thing by limiting that exposure at home, but in the real world, these videos feel like they're everywhere. We saw the Charlie Kirk video being shared millions of times immediately across multiple platforms. The stabbing death of Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska, mass shootings, these seem to happen every day. So with those young kids, even if they're not on a screen, we really need to pay attention to our own consumption. When that TV is on, when you're watching videos, when you're listening to the radio, even when you're having conversations, if the little ones are around you, because they hear everything. And with older kids, it almost feels like we can avoid it, given the fact that the majority of high schoolers, younger teens, they are all on social media. They're consuming that behavior and seeing that every single day, which is why it's important to address the fact and have a conversation with them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The kids they're so aware and they absorb everything around them. Just yesterday, I was doing a Zoom interview at home, interviewing the uncle of Irina Zarutska, the young lady that was brutally attacked on that train in Charlotte. And I had told my son to wait in the other room, had him occupied, and then I saw him peek around the corner and his eyes were just big. He's like, what is she talking about? So it's so hard to keep this stuff away from them, and it's just so dark. But what signs should parents be on the lookout for when it comes to our teens, for instance, if they are in distress and they're not sharing? What are some of those signs?
These feelings of anxiety and fear can manifest in different ways for different kids, depending on their age. Stephanie, sometimes it's changes in sleep pattern. Kids aren't able to stay and fall asleep. Sometimes it could be emotional behaviors, such as irritability. It could actually be physical symptoms as well, headaches, stomach aches, and sometimes it's outright fear and anxiety, which is why having those conversations and asking kids how they feel and letting them feel the way they are without judgment is so incredibly important. And I want to add to parents to make sure you're checking your own stress first before you go and have that conversation with kids, because kids need to hear you calm and they need that sense of security.
That is really good advice. And I would imagine that there is a difference between how children and even adults process real life violence versus the fictional violence we might see in movies or video games, right?
There really is. And I'm glad you bring this up, because the reality is for younger kids, they may not actually be able to differentiate between fact and fiction. So if they see something on a movie, on television, or on a video game, it's hard to actually tease out if that's real life. Whereas with older kids, we know that they can tell the difference. And with older people, real violence is more likely to bring about fear and anxiety. So it's important to actually mitigate what people are consuming based on their age. But Stephanie, I think the overall question we have to be asking is, what is the environment we're actually letting our kids live in? The fact that 300 mass shootings have taken place already this year. Kids are seeing it, they're experiencing it, and this toxic stress is terrible for their developing brain. So I feel like collectively, this conversation is important, and so is figuring out a way to come together and prevent these firearm violences that are the leading cause of death and injury in young people.
Absolutely startling statistics. It is a frightening time. Dr. Alok Patel, thank you so much for your time and insights. Really appreciate it. Coming up here on Prime, NASA said earlier this week they've discovered the clearest sign of life on Mars. We'll tell you what they possibly found coming up. And also, how might Taylor Swift be pulled into the contentious legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni? Those details next. Welcome back. It's been a long week here on Earth. So let's look to the cosmos and talk about an incredibly exciting discovery out this week from NASA. The space agency says it has found the clearest sign of life so far on Mars. It's a rock that NASA's Perseverance rover has discovered that appears to point to ancient life on the red planet. So what exactly does all of this mean? Well, and what we can learn about our planet in the process. For more, we're joined by space expert Eric Ingram to talk about this. Thank you so much for your time, Eric. You got the memo about the backgrounds, I see. we're matching. Okay, so
totally coordinated.
Yes. So talk about what scientists have discovered here. Someone may say, oh, this is just a rock. It's just an ancient rock. But why is this so significant?
Yeah, so what the Perseverance rover found is essentially exactly the kind of material it was originally sent there to find. So it landed at Jezero Crater back in February of 2021. And I believe NASA published the initial findings of this discovery back about a year ago. and it's only recently published the paper. So what these rocks have that they found are what they've dubbed speckles and leopard spots, which indicate a really complex process that is called a redox reaction, which on Earth is found in organisms that are in low oxygen environments. And so there are other ways to produce it, but that's the primary way. And with the geology and the chemistry of the things around this sample, things that are not related to life are a lot more of a long shot possibility for this sample.
So it's possible that this rock could be related to life or life that existed on Mars at one point.
Yes. So this
okay,
rock
just making
is,
sure we're on the same page here.
Yes, this rock is about 3 to 3.5 billion years old, so it was a while ago. But it does give strong indications of microbial life at that time. More study is needed to really be sure, and I'm sure that analysis is going on. But obviously, if we could bring those samples back to Earth, that would be a huge boon to understanding the sample even better.
Okay, so if it is confirmed that there was life on Mars at some point, what does it mean for our universe? What does it mean for our planet?
It's huge. I mean, humanity has always been searching out there for the next thing and for something that resembles ourselves, right? Like we ultimately want to know whether or not we're alone in the universe. If we're able to find life, even microbial life, even ancient microbial life on a planet in our solar system, there are, 100 million solar systems in this galaxy and 400 billion galaxies out there, right? So numerically, that means it's a lot more possible that there's life all around the universe. And it's not just, a very specific location here on Earth.
It's all very fascinating. NASA, of course, is trying to send humans to Mars. I'm sure you've heard. Do discoveries like this one make that mission more important or even possible?
It definitely moves things in the right direction, right? The more that we can know about what's going on there and the more that we know we can learn from what's going on there, the more impetus there is to make more discoveries, to put more budget and effort into these missions and into this research. And this definitely pushes it in the right direction. And if this discovery even got my geologist wife to be excited about something related to space, that's a huge sign that this is going to help the case.
It certainly will. Thank you so much for your time. Eric Ingram, the smart friend we all need in our lives. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Coming up here on Prime, Academy Award-winning actress Marion Cotillard is the latest addition to the cast of Apple TV Plus's hit series, The Morning Show. She'll be with us right here in studio. Plus, a look at Prince Harry's surprise trip to Ukraine. And up next, a sneak peek at my 2020 episode, which is airing tonight. First comes love, then comes murder. It airs tonight right here on ABC and streams tomorrow on Hulu. Here's a clip.
I looked out the window and I saw a police car pull up. And I saw my dad and a police officer get out of the car. And I said, oh God, what the hell's happening? My dad is like, he was just talking, but everything was in slow motion. He's like, Lauren, your mom's been in an accident. I think we're seeing like a bus accident or she got in a car. Like, I wasn't thinking the work that. And then he goes, she's no longer with us anymore. I was like, what? And so I ran into my bedroom and he screamed, like screamed. Like what you hear on like the horror movies, like deep down into your stomach scream. And I said, I don't understand.
It shook the office. I had to make that phone call.
Brett calls the office. He said, you're not going to believe this, Linda, but Leslie's dead. And he couldn't tell me anymore because he didn't know anymore.
I saw a number of police cars. I saw an ambulance. I was just shocked. Who would want to murder such a wonderful person?
takes a special kind of superstar to sell out 30 straight shows, all in his own backyard. But for Puerto Rico y pa'l mundo, the world and beyond, that star is Bad Bunny. Tonight, we're letting you know the economic boom sparked by his summer residency, No Me Quiero Ir de Aquí in Puerto Rico, by the numbers. The 30-day Puerto Rican residencia, which started July 11th and goes through the end of this weekend in what many know as El Choli, Coliseo de Puerto Rico José Miguel Agreló, served as more than just a concert experience for fangoers and locals on the island. According to Moody's Analytics, Bad Bunny's 30 shows is expected to have a direct economic impact of $250 million to La Isla, the island. All right, let's talk about the crowds. They were massive. It estimated that more than 600,000 visitors, many coming from the States, Europe, and Latin America, showed up over the course of the residency. More than 48,000 hotels booked. Short-term rentals are up too. August bookings jumped 42% compared to last year, and September's are up 61%. All right, thought we might have some Bad Bunny music behind us. We don't. We're going to keep going. Local hotels sold around 25,000 special concert packages, bundling tickets with tours and hotel stays, a clear sign of just how strong demand has been. For locals, more than 2,000 temporary jobs were created across the island in hospitality, event staffing, and retail, offering a much-needed income and opportunity during what's usually considered Puerto Rico's slow season. And a nearly 10 ABC News staffers attended the concert, none of which are Puerto Rican, by the way, but that is okay. Everybody is welcome. And guess what? They did not want to leave. And here to speak more about the impact Bad Bunny has had, not just in Puerto Rico, but on the world, thanks to his 30-day Puerto Rican residency, No Me Quiero Ir de Aquí, is culture and music journalist Susie Exposito. Thank you so much, Susie, for joining us here on Prime. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Bad Bunny expert right here. Okay, that's you. Yeah, so Bad Bunny, he refused to leave Puerto Rico, which makes No Me Quiero Ir de Aquí not just a first of its kind residency, but a political, cultural, and emotional declaration. So what does it mean for just the culture and just music in general for him to just stand up this residency on the island?
I think it was just a beautiful recap of how powerful he's become as an artist. I mean, this is someone who went from being a grocery bagger and a SoundCloud trap artist to a Grammy-winning musician. And now he's a movie star. He's been in movies like Caught Stealing and Happy Gilmore 2, which came out this summer. And I think that his Puerto Rico residency is a radical return to his roots. You hear it in the sounds, you see it in the costuming, the set design is phenomenal. And, there's a contrast between where people live in Puerto Rico, so it's the little pink house, La Casita, and then on the other side of the stadium is Puerto Rico in all of its wilderness, it's very lush. He has a salsa band, a plena band come out. They come out of the wilderness and they're just really rallying everybody in a huge celebration, not just of Benito himself, but of Puerto Rico and its cultural and musical legacy.
And you just mentioned the stages there during the residency, La Casita y El Yunque. It's not just a backdrop. They're fully curated visual narrative roots of a stage, right? And what does that mean for just preserving the memory and the nostalgia of this album? What has that done for the fans?
I think that in Puerto Rico, there is I think Bad Bunny has galvanized a lot of Puerto Ricans, not just those who live in the archipelago, but those who live all over the world, to really embrace their heritage and to be proud of where they're from. But also, I think for Latinos of all stripes, I think there's a lot that we can really relate to, just the togetherness. I mean, the way that I see multiple generations at this show, seeing people as old as 80, and they're with teenagers, and everyone is getting their life. It's just a testament to how I don't know, like, I don't even want to, I don't want to like resort to a stereotype about us, but I don't know, we're really festive people.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that really united everybody.
And clearly the casita and el yunque, they're not just stages, right? They're not just stages for performing. It's just preserving our roots. So we always hear about artists putting places on the map, right? But what happens when the place was always there and the artist just holds up the mirror? It's exactly what Bad Bunny's doing.
Exactly. That's really beautifully said. I think that he wanted to create a special place for Puerto Ricans, especially that first weekend. It was Puerto Ricans only, and then a select few members of the press that were able to attend those shows. And I think it is special in light of just how much like Puerto Rico has sustained over the years, whether it's climate change or gentrification, problems with the electric grid. Like, I think that people really, really needed this.
Yeah, we know the album touches heavily on the constant change to Puerto Rican society, from gentrification to displacement, even government neglect, and some of the topics that you mentioned there. So this has been huge for the island and really for the world. He's been able to touch so many different people from different backgrounds. I have to tell you, I've got major FOMO. I went to buy some tickets and they were sold out. I'm so late to the game. No. But he's going overseas soon, so there's still hope. Susie, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
More than a dozen former college basketball players are accused of breaking a major rule. The government is looking into AI companions, and a music superstar could be deposed in the Blake Lively-Justin Baldoni lawsuit. These stories and more in tonight's Rundown. The NCAA says it's investigating 13 former men's basketball student athletes from 6 different schools for alleged sports betting violations. The organization said the cases included student athletes betting on and against their teams, sharing information with third parties, and manipulating game results. The NCAA did not name the student athletes involved, but said none of them are enrolled at the schools where they allegedly committed the violations. The Federal Trade Commission says it's investigating AI chatbots that act as companions, looking into how they may be impacting children and teenagers. The FTC issued orders to various social media and AI companies asking how they work to prevent their chatbots from harming younger consumers. The move comes with lawsuits recently brought against 2 AI companies by families of teens who died by suicide, claiming the company's chatbots bore responsibility for their deaths. Preliminary consumer sentiment data says Americans' confidence in the economy is continuing to fall. The University of Michigan survey found sentiment decreased just under 3 points from August to its lowest levels since May. The report said respondents expressed concern over tariffs and possible long-term inflation. Prince Harry made a surprise trip to Ukraine to support wounded troops today. That's his second visit this year. The Duke of Sussex arrived in Kyiv on an overnight train and spent time with hundreds of Ukrainian veterans. The trip comes immediately after his recent engagements in the UK, which included a reunion with his father, King Charles. Will Taylor Swift be pulled into the long legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni? Baldoni's lawyers said in a court filing that Swift had agreed to sit in a deposition in late October. A lawyer for the pop star said that was not the case, adding that she would be available after October 20th if forced to give a deposition. Lively is suing Baldoni over allegations of sexual harassment she said happened as Baldoni directed and starred with her in the film It Ends With Us. Allegations Baldoni denies. A representative for Baldoni declined to comment to ABC News. Representatives for Lively and Swift have not yet responded. Mexican singer-songwriter Karin Leon is about to make history in Las Vegas. The Grammy-winning artist announced 3 shows at the Las Vegas Sphere next year to mark the city's annual Mexican Independence Day celebration, which will make him the first Latino artist to play the new venue. Those shows scheduled exactly 1 year from now on September 11th, 12th, and 13th of 2026. You might know Marion Cotillard best for her roles in Christopher Nolan's Inception and the Batman film The Dark Knight Rises. Of course, before all of that, she won the Academy Award for Best Actress for her role in La Vie en Rose. And now she is one of the newest actors to join the cast of Apple TV Plus's The Morning Show. The show taking a dramatic yet often comedic look behind the curtain of morning television. Take a look at this clip.
We did a fan dance up and down Wall Street to borrow money. Then we went on a shopping spree to buy the biggest sports event on earth. I swam in the Seine and literally swallowed. To close this deal, we're out of money and favors. If we lose the Olympics, we lose the network.
They were asking for my help. You would have done the exact same thing.
I just don't want us to fail.
Marion joins us now here in studio. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
We know some of the writers and actors on the morning show spend some time in an actual newsroom to get a feel for how it is in real life. Did you spend any time in a newsroom to get that newsroom experience?
Well, no, I didn't prepare this way, but I was a big fan of the show, and I watched the 2 first seasons in 3 days, so I got really obsessed.
And we saw in that clip your character's pretty fiery. So tell us about her and the character.
Her name is Céline Dumont. She's the new board president at UBA, and she has a lot on her plate. She is at a very powerful place in that world. There are a lot of expectations from her, and she also deals with what she is and who she is.
Yeah, you've had so many roles on stage and in film. How has TV been different for you? How does that compare to your previous roles?
It's very different because when I prepare for a movie, you have the script, you have the whole story. There's the beginning, the end. You have this possibility with all the material that you have to create the arc of emotion of a character. And I didn't know that I would start shooting the show with only 4 episodes that I had read. And I started the show, so I had to build the character based on what I had from those 4 episodes and the background story that was given to me. But I didn't know where she would go. I didn't know what would happen to the character. I didn't know what kind of relationship she would develop with the other characters. So I was a little anxious to start that way because it was really like jumping into the unknown. And even though sometimes I would read the new script, like episode 6, and I would be like, oh my God, if I had known this, I would have played this differently. And then I looked back and I thought it was also interesting to have a different kind of, approach to the role and the work.
How was it entering the group that's kind of already been in place for the last couple of years? How was it working with Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston and the rest of the cast?
I think I expected to have an amazing experience. It's so smart. It's so, I think, important to share those stories that are very entertaining and at the same time very deep in questioning about society, about politics, about human feelings. And I knew that I would be welcome. I knew that I would have an amazing experience. I knew that Jen Aniston and Reese Witherspoon, I could feel that they were like-hearted people, warm and smart, and so I expected all this, and when I got there, it was my journey and my experience was even more vibrant and greater than what I had expected. That was really, that was truly an amazing experience that I had with all those people.
That is so lovely to hear. I'm sure so many new storylines to watch and to entertain us. And I mean, just like in the real world, there's plenty of storylines to go around. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too.
Season 4 of The Morning Show premieres Wednesday, September 17th on Apple TV+. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Stephanie Ramos. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you so much for streaming with us.